All right, in this video, I want to talk about who Babylon is. And this is very key to help you understand prophecy. The first thing I would like to bring up is how Babylon in Revelation is referred to as a harlot and city. Right? And this is something we need to think about here, because also in Revelation we are told about a woman who is a virgin. And this is Revelation 12 here, where we read about this virgin that is the one who gives birth to the Messiah. And in the future, this woman is going to have to flee after the man-child goes up, after the rapture, into the wilderness. This here is Israel, this virgin woman, right? But you see, there's a dual nature to all of us, right? And we have that dual nature here, where I'm saying apostate who equals Babylon? Apostate, there's a hair that keeps messing around here. Judaism or Jews. You see, we first read about this virgin, but she flees when the dragon goes after her. But there's another woman riding the beast. And that is the apostate Jews here. And Judaism is Babylon. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. You notice how we have a description of this harlot, and she has harlot daughters, right? You know, she doesn't have sons, right? It's all daughters. And she gets the kings of the world drunk on the wine, which equals teachings. And of her fornication. So her teachings are a mix. Hence the Babylon is a mix, a confusion, right? Such as a woman with a beast, like Beauty and the Beast. This harlot on the beast, that is Babylonian, that is confusion. As it tells us in the scriptures, if a woman were to lie with a beast, that is confusion, right? That's how it describes it. And when we take this here and think about this, we see in the scriptures that God refers to mankind basically as a woman, specifically Israel as a woman. And the believing, faithful Jews would be considered a virgin, devout and chaste to God and God only. But then the apostate ones would be considered a harlot. So this should better help us understand that when we're going into the scriptures and we read about a woman, we know it has to do with the believers, and it has to do with, again, Israel. Because Israel was the only one that's actually referred to actually as a woman. The Gentiles, the unbelieving heathen that followed other gods, they were not referred to as basically men or women. They were referred to as dogs and pigs, as animals. You might be offended by that, but that's how God has it set up. So this woman going after other nations and the kings of these nations and mixing teachings with them is confusion. It's Babylon, right? And it produces daughters. Now take a look at this. This is crazy. You look at Judaism, right? And what are the branch offs of Judaism? Well, you could start off where you got pure Judaism. Then you have the Pharisees. We're just going to put a P here for the Pharisees. And then a branch off here with Sadducees. You could say the pure Judaism would be maybe the Essenes. We'll put that there. And then you have some others. We'll just put others, branch offs of this. But then this turns into where it mixes with Christianity. You know how that's how it started in Acts. These Jews who still wanted to be under Moses, under the law, were trying to get the Christians back under that. And they actually did it. As they said, we have no king but Caesar. They used Caesar to not only take out Jesus, as in by Caesar I mean the Roman government, not Caesar himself, and then use that same Roman government to then attack the Christians. And they ended up joining with pagan Rome to create Catholicism and Orthodoxy, where they used the state combined with this religion. Again, Babylonian, a mixture that ought not to be mixed here, confusion. Church and state, where the state is a beast of man, and you're mixing God's bride with it. That's a no-go, right? And that would be the first harlot daughters of Judaism. Then what comes out of that also, which supposedly is built off of the Jewish scriptures as well, is Islam. Another harlot daughter. And then from these ones, there's more, right? You got Protestants that come out of this. And then even from that and Protestantism, you get these other groups. I'll just put cults, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists and stuff. And Islam, they have their little sects as well, with the Shia and Sunni and stuff like that. And they're all basically taking the Jewish doctrine, the Jewish scriptures, and mixing it with pagan heathen beliefs. Catholicism is a perfect example of this, where they have their high priest and the other priests that work with them, that they'll call the Pope and cardinals and bishops, right? And they, instead of offering up their animal sacrifices, they offer up the Eucharist, right? It's basically the same system. They just repackage it, right? And then they put in a lot of pagan things into it, such as praying to other gods and goddesses, but they change the Roman pantheon from such as the god of safe travels and protection. They'll just say it's the saint of protection and the saint of safe travels, right? So you see here that they are mixing these things, right? It's all Babylonian. That's why it's a harlot, right? It's mixing with things that ought not to mix with. And yeah, the whole point of bringing this up was to show how the true harlot here is not so much Israel, but apostate Judaism and the Jews, as they have mingled with, like America, for example. There's a lot of unelected government officials who have joint citizenship with America and Israel. Right? That's a bit sketchy there. Very sketchy. Very weird and strange, right? And they're manipulating and using apostate Christians who follow basically a prosperity gospel of build up your life and treasures in this world and not in heaven, and using them to help support what they want to do. Not that I'm against supporting Israel, but I'm against a lot of the ways they go about things and their rejection of Jesus Christ, right? But you see here how they're mixing with all these different groups, and they even mixed with that church that they built in, I believe, Dubai. They call it the Abrahamic House, where it's a mixture of Judaism, Catholicism, and Islam. And one of their tactics to help get the third temple built is to say that the temple is not just for the Jews. It's a house for worship, a house for prayer, for the world, for all people. Right? So you see how they're mixing Babylonian confusion. That's what the harlotry is a mixture, and it's the wine is teachings. So you got the wine, the teachings of her fornication. So her mixing with the world, she got new teachings that ultimately obviously reject Jesus Christ. Look at him as a false god, as an idol, and all this. These things are part of the fornication, right? And you can say this started whenever you really want, but it has a lot to do with when they started using oral traditions, and then they started putting that as equal to the scriptures, and then it basically became authority where you need that to properly interpret the scriptures according to them. And then they had a Jerusalem Talmud, and then a Babylonian Talmud, and now you got probably a mixture of the two. And it's the same thing like you see with Catholicism, right? They went after oral traditions. History just repeated itself. Then it just slowly phased out really the importance of the scriptures and how we should obey the scriptures over anything else, and how we use the scriptures to test traditions, to test churches, to test the teachings of men and churches, to test all their doctrines, to see if somebody's truly of God or not is by testing them to the scriptures, and how everybody's gotten away from that, going after this wine here of her fornication. And she's created many daughters. It's not as if they all really like each other, but they're like, oh, but we're all family, right? We're all part of the Abrahamic family house here, right? But it's all just a bunch of nonsense. But that is that for this video. I want to give credit to a channel on BitChute called A Day Before the Rapture. That's the channel name, A Day Before the Rapture. I was checking out some of his videos, and he had one about who is Babylon. And as he was going through it, this is what came to my mind, is the mixing of teachings and all the groups that have come from this mixing of the Jewish scriptures and pagan heathenism created all these different groups that ultimately all reject the gospel of how you can't save yourself, but God can save you. So, with that being said, put your faith in Jesus Christ. Lay down your righteousness and stop trying to save yourself, going after these religions of dogs and pigs, creating this Babylonian confusion that you're following here, building basically your tower of Babel, of confusion and self-righteousness to break into heaven thinking you deserve to go in there. It's not true. Have some humble pie here. It's good for you. It's not the best tasting, but it's good for you. It'll make you big and strong. but you're not going to taste all too well. Might make your stomach feel a little but you'll feel really good after you put it down. Because you'll end up giving your life to God, and since you're willing to give Him 100%, He gives you 100%. You give up your righteousness, your past, present, and future, well, He gives you His righteousness in past, present, and future. So if you haven't done that, I hope you do it now. Because you never know when your time's up. God forbid, today, right now, could be when God requires your soul for you to give an account of your life, and boom, you're done and you're judged, right? So best get right now while you can. Don't assume you got another moment, yet alone another day, right? So I know I keep saying so, but if you like this video, you like my other content, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, share the channel, interact in the comment section. These things help. And please take a moment to pray, whatever you want to pray, just in support of the truth, the scriptures, God's people, and the ministries they got, and obviously for me as well, right? I hope you see that I'm included in that, and that He protects us and keeps us going until He comes for us. And if you want to help out some more, if you're a cheerful giver, there's 4 ways you can support financially in the info box or description box there, which would be greatly appreciated to make sure this can keep on going until He comes and gets us, which looks like it's very soon. So a little bit can go a long way here. But anyway, with all that being said, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.